Polls.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
Have you ever been there? That feeling, like whiplash, when a real estate deal looks totally solid. You know, the price is right, due diligence looks clean, no big issues with the property itself.
And then, boom.
Yeah.
Just days before closing, it completely falls apart.
Yeah, exactly. And it's often just this really dry email from the attorney, right? Something like, we have an issue with the title. Closing is postponed.
Indefinitely. It's gut-wrenching. And that specific scenario is what we're really digging into today.
We're calling it title turbulence. It's that silent killer, you know, the legal snag that turns a smooth sale into this awful, costly mess.
Months of limbo sometimes.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is, like you said, it often has zero to do with the actual bricks and mortar.
Right. So our mission today really is to tackle maybe the most overlooked and, let's be honest, probably the most boring part of any deal.
It's true. But it's critical. We're talking about the health of the selling entity's paperwork. We want to clear up what title readiness actually means and why that internal stuff, the corporate documents, is basically the gatekeeper for any serious buyer or lender.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit for you. You know, a lot of sellers, especially maybe mom and pop owners who've held a property in an LLC for ages, they kind of treat the title part as just checking a box, right?
It's just a formality. They think, okay, earnest money is in, buyer seems happy, title company just prints the deed, and we're done.
But that's not how the title company sees it at all, is it?
Not even close.
Right.
That perspective. It's honestly a recipe for disaster. The title company, and crucially the lender putting up the money, they're operating on a totally different frequency.
Okay.
They couldn't care less about handshakes or verbal understandings at that stage. They're laser focused on one thing: the legally verifiable, documented truth of who owns this thing. And, just as important, who has the actual authority to sell it.
So they're not really auditing the building condition at that point. They're auditing the legal history of the company that owns it.
Precisely. If the entity itself is messy, the title is going to be messy, period.
Right.
You have to remember, the title company's main job is underwriting risk. They're basically guaranteeing to the buyer and the lender that the chain of ownership is clean, unbroken, that the seller legally owns it, free and clear of hidden problems, and this is key, that the person signing the closing docs actually has the power granted by the entity to do that.
Okay. So if the paperwork trail for the entity is like sloppy or contradicts itself.
They just stop. They can't insure that risk. It's too uncertain.
So just to make sure I'm getting this right, they're essentially looking at the public records, like the deed history, and comparing that against the private company stuff filed with the state.
That's exactly it. Yes, they're looking for gaps, inconsistencies, those secrets in the filing cabinet, as you called them earlier.
And what kind of inconsistencies trip them up?
Oh, all sorts. Maybe the deed says the LLC changed its name 3 years back, but oops, the annual reports are still being filed under the old name. Or they see a signature on an old deed transfer from someone listed as a managing member, but state records show that person resigned 10 years ago. Stuff like that. It raises immediate red flags, questions they can't answer easily. And unanswered questions mean uninsurable risk.
Okay, that really clarifies it. So deals don't really die from some brand new last-minute surprise popping up.
Not usually, no.
They die because of these, like, structural problems in the paperwork that have been sitting there maybe for years, totally unaddressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, we see this problem disproportionately affect really important sectors, like affordable housing. You'd think the biggest hurdles there are, I don't know, rent regulations or tenant issues.
Right.
But sources consistently show the #1 deal killer time and time again in affordable housing. It's title problems. A bad title means the lender walks. No financing, no deal. It's that simple.
Okay, so if we know the internal paperwork is the weak spot, let's pivot from the chaos to the solution. We need to talk about what entity readiness actually looks like, because that LLC, it's not just a name on a tax form.
No, it's the legal body that owns the asset, whether it's a mobile home park, an apartment building, whatever.
It is the body. And if that body is, as you put it, missing limbs like, key documents are gone or totally out of date,
then no serious buyer, and certainly no institutional lender, is going to touch it. They see that internal mess as a Huge warning sign for deeper unmanaged risks.
Wow. I'm just picturing trying to track down paperwork for an LLC setup in, say, 1995, when everything was on dot matrix printers and floppy disks.
Oh, it can be a nightmare. A total legal scavenger hunt sometimes, digging through old state records, dusty boxes.
Yeah.
And if that entity hasn't been actively maintained, if its core documents haven't really been looked at since the dial-up internet era, you've got a ticking time bomb. Buyers need certainty.
Yeah.
Lenders demand proof of compliance.
Okay, so let's give you the solution. We need the healthy entity checklist. If you're getting ready to sell, or frankly, even if you just own property through an LLC, you need these 5 things locked down, current, and clean. What's ground zero?
Essential number 1, your current articles of organization filed with the state. Think of it as the entity's birth certificate and proof it's still alive legally.
Okay.
It needs to be active, show the right names, reflect what the entity actually does. Usually easy to check online, but it's the absolute foundation.
Got it. Foundation. Now, number 2. This sounds like where things often get tricky. Because the state might say the entity exists, but that doesn't prove who's actually running the show, right?
That's the critical difference, exactly. Essential number 2 is the operating agreement, or OA, and it needs to be signed by all the members.
Okay, the OA.
This is the internal playbook. It spells out how the LLC works, how money gets split, and crucially for a sale, who has the specific stated authority to sign the deed, sign the closing docs, basically execute the transaction.
Hold on, though. If the state records list who the managing member is, why do they need this private internal agreement? Why isn't the public filing enough proof?
Great question. It really gets to the heart of existence versus authority. The state filing confirms, yes, this entity is real, it exists.
Right.
But the operating agreement provides the specific proof that this person, the one showing up to sign away the asset, actually has the power granted by all the owners to do so.
Okay.
If that OA doesn't clearly give signing authority for that kind of deal to the current manager, the title company's lawyer will slam on the brakes. They'll demand a separate formal resolution signed by every single member, maybe even past members, depending on the wording. They will ensure a deed signed under questionable authority.
Okay, wow. That makes total sense now. It's the specific permission slip they need for the insurance,
Yeah.
which flows right into essential number 3, keeping the entity in good standing.
Essential 3. Yep, all your annual reports need to be filed on time, and the entity has to be confirmed as in good standing with the state where it's registered.
And if it's not,
Big problems. If the state has administratively dissolved your entity because you forgot to file reports or pay fees, you legally cannot conduct business. You can't sell the asset.
gosh.
You'd have to go through reinstatement, which can take time, cost money, and easily kill a deal that's on a tight timeline.
So we've got legal existence, internal authority confirmed by the OA, and current good standing. What about the numbers, the financial identifiers?
That brings us to essential number 4.
Yeah.
The EIN, your employer identification number. It has to be active, and it has to be tied to the exact legal name of the LLC.
Exact name, like punctuation matters.
Absolutely. Even a misplaced comma or using ink when it should be LLC can cause issues. If the EIN name doesn't perfectly match the state filings and the name on the deed, you might need to sort it out with the IRS.
And dealing with the IRS is not fast.
Notoriously slow. It can stop a transaction cold while you wait weeks or months for updated paperwork.
Okay. And finally, number 5. This sounds like the one that could really snag entities that have been around a while with multiple owners. Changes in who actually owns it.
Essential 5. You nailed it. Any and all changes in membership, who owns a piece of the LLC, must be meticulously documented. Usually this is done through amendments to that operating agreement we talked about, or maybe formal corporate minutes.
So if someone passed away or a partner was bought out years ago,
You need the paper trail, signed by everyone involved at the time. It has to be crystal clear who the current owners are and that the ownership structure is valid.
and if that paperwork trail is broken, if someone left 5 years ago but there's no formal document saying so,
Then the title company has to assume, for insurance purposes, that the departed member might still have a claim.
oh boy.
They'll often demand a signed, notarized statement, an affidavit, from that long-gone partner confirming they release all rights. Now imagine trying to track down someone who retired to Florida 10 years ago
Right.
and convincing them they need to find a notary and sign legal papers for a company they thought they left behind ages ago. It just creates doubt. And where there's doubt, title insurance usually disappears.
That is a fantastic, really practical checklist. So if you boil those 5 points down, What you're really saying is this is all about corporate governance, right? Compliance is basically the price you pay for certainty in a deal.
Absolutely. That's the bottom line. The buyer isn't just buying land or a building. They're buying a clean, defects-free, insurable transfer of ownership.
Yeah.
A buyer, especially a sophisticated one, should never have to play detective and piece together your company's history just to figure out who owns the thing or who can sign the papers. That lack of basic foundational documents, the OA, the state filings, the membership records, that's the direct cause of title turbulence almost every time.
So the big takeaway here for you, listening, getting your title ready isn't something you do the week before closing. It's not a formality. It's fundamental proactive work you need to do months before you even think about listing the property. The health of that legal entity, your LLC or whatever structure you use, that is the health of the deal. If your paperwork's a mess, expect closing nightmares no matter how great the actual property is.
And maybe this is the final thought to leave you with. Think about the real hidden cost of ignoring your corporate history. If that basic stuff, a current operating agreement, up-to-date annual reports, if that's missing, it signals a lack of basic diligence.
Right.
And that lack of diligence undermines the legal certainty that lenders absolutely require. So the question becomes, how much value, how many opportunities, how many collapsed deals? How much is truly lost because of secrets buried in those dusty, unfiled corporate records? That realization, it often hits people hardest right after that perfect deal falls apart. Suddenly, the cost and hassle of getting your paperwork clean beforehand looks infinitely cheaper than the actual cost of title turbulence.